Hello everyone, welcome to our live stream for today. If this is your first time joining our live stream, I want to say welcome to you. In today's class, we'll be looking at Concord. Today we'll be looking at Concord and we'll be looking at 3 different rules of Concord. Now remember, Concord has to do with your subject and verb relationship. So when we know how to combine subject and verb, we can be able to talk more or solve some questions on the English language. So if you are preparing for JAMB, this class is just for you. Now, don't forget to invite your friends and tell your friends more about our online classes. Now, for you to get notified when we fix our online classes, you need to subscribe to my channel. Once you subscribe, you get that notification so as to come online when we go live online. So let's go straight to our topic for today. We'll be looking at Concord. Now, what is Concord? Now, when we talk about Concord, we should be talking about the agreement between verbs and subjects. And that is the key important thing you need to know. So Concord means agreement between subjects or verbs, or between verbs and other elements of clause structure. Now remember the element of clause structure or sentence structure we discussed about. It can be the subjects, it can be the complements, it can be the adjuncts. All these are elements of or the structure of any good English sentence. Now, when we talk about we talk about subject verb agreement. So for any sentence to make sense, there must be an agreement between the subject and the verb. Now, guess you still remember what subject and verb mean? From our last classes, we have discussed that. Now, there are several methods of framing questions. Your examiners know how to do that under Concord. And these are based on so many rules that are governing the topic. Now, let's check, for example, do you say they suggest he go away or goes away? Will you say they suggest he go away or goes away? Which will you choose? Now, out of these 2 sentences, which will you choose? Now, do you say many a girl likes or like him? Do you say many a girl likes or like him? Now, which do you say? Is it likes or like him? Now, do you say my club meets or meets every day? Do you say my club meets or meets every day? Now, if you look at these 3 sentences, you come to see that there must be an agreement between the verbs, the subjects, and the verbs. Now, this is what Concord is all about. In Concord, for you to get the answer or the right options between all these, sorry about that. For you to get the right options between all these and these, you need to accurately do what? You need to accurately know the agreement between subjects and what? And verb. And that is what Concord is all about. Now you can keep on listing several sentence after sentence. And as you list these sentences, you come to see that there need to be an agreement between your subject and your verb for you to get the right options of these various sentences that are given to you. And that is exactly how question will truly come from Concord. Now let's look at some other sentences that you might talk about. You might also decide to talk about sentence like the boy with his parents go or goes to farm. Is it go or goes to? Now, which of the verbs do you think agree with the boy with his parents? Remember, that is more of a collective, a group of what? Nouns or subjects. Now, do we say the teachers, the principals, our parents, or Ola dash to blame? Is it is to blame or are to blame? Now, all these are some of those questions you see in your examination. And since it's a computer-based test, you become confused. But if you get to know the agreement between subjects and verbs, then you can easily pick your answer and zoom to the next question. So these and many more are structured under Concord. And unless you know the rules that governs a particular structure, guess what? You will go on guessing all your answer in that exams you'll be sitting for. Now, we are going to look at some of these rules. Now, to guide us in these rules, I want you to always note that singular verbs, when we talk about Concord, we'll always talk about verbs and we'll always talk about the what? The subject, which will always be what? Which will always be noun or pronouns. So in anything you do, note that whenever you have singular verbs include, what's going on? What's going on? Let's just fix this thing back. I will get back to the class. Just give me 2 minutes. Let me see if I'll fix up this and then we'll continue. So sorry about this. This is exactly what we experience whenever we have some issues like this. So I want us to continue from this part of the class. Remember, we are talking about singular verbs, and we say singular verbs. So when we talk about singular verbs, when we say singular verbs, when it has to do with Concord, singular verbs. So singular verbs has to do with Concord likes. So when we talk about singular verbs, we are talking about verbs like is, was. Singular verbs are verbs that goes with what? With s. So when we have was, we have has, we have something like and, all actions with what? With s coming with them at the back, such like goes. We have goes. We also have rights. So if we have rights, we also have knows. All these are what? All these are singular verbs. Now, there are two things you should know about. There's a difference between a noun and verb. So when we talk about singular nouns have no s behind them at their back, while plural nouns usually comes with s depending on the kind of noun. But in in terms of verbs, these are different. Singular verbs have s at the back of the back of each of those action words or each of those auxiliary verbs. Now, but they don't have s when it comes towards plural. So I want you to note that when we have singular verb is, was, has, actions like goes, right, knows, they are all what? They are all singular what? Singular verbs. Now, what about plural verbs? What and what can we categorize as plural verbs? Now, let's look at verbs like, let's look at verbs like are, verbs like are, were, they are all plural what? Verbs. Have, and action words like know, write, keep listing them as they go, speak, dance, etc. All these are what we call plural verbs. So get to know what singular verbs are and get to know what plural verbs are. That way, you can be able to get to know the relationship between each concord. Now, let's go straight to the types of concord we have. Now, what are the types of concord? That's what we are going to look at. Now, when we look at the types of concord, the first type of concord we are going to look at is the subject slash verb word concord, or we look at it as subject and verb agreement concord. Now, under this concord, what do we need to know? What do we need to know about? There is one fact that under this concord, when the subject is singular, when the subject is singular, that is, the noun is singular, then the verb should also be what? Singular. And when the subject is plural, then the verb should also be what? Plural. Now take note of those 2 points. Now under this category, if you have a verb that is singular, you stick to it. The verb should be singular. The noun should also be singular. So when subject is singular, verb is singular. And when subject is plural, verb will also be what? Plural. Now, let's take for a good example. We can say he goes, not he go. So this is right, while this is wrong. Why? Because this is a singular subject and it must go with a what? A singular what? A singular verb. Now remember I told you that singular verbs should have what? S at the back, or the actions must come with S at the back. So this is wrong because this is what? This is singular. This is singular subject. Why this is what? Plural what? Plural verb. Now you see, it doesn't rhyme. And that is why we say that won't work. So when the subject is plural, then the verb should also be what? Plural. That's the point you should note. So when we talk about subject verb concord, we talk about the subject being singular and the verb must also be singular. Now, when the subject is plural, the verb must also be what? Plural. Now, let's look at another good example. In this example, we can say the boys go, the boys go. The boys go, right? And not the boys, and not the boys go, goes. So why are these two sentences different? The boys go and not the boy goes. So which is correct? The boys, this is plural subject. And it must go with a what? A plural what? A plural verb. Now remember, plural verb doesn't have S attached to the end. So this should be what? Right. What about this? This is what? Singular subject. And then this is a what? This is a what? This is a singular subject. And this is a singular what? That is a singular verb. The boys, sorry, this should be S. This is a plural subject. This is a plural subject and it should go with a plural verb, but the verb is what? The verb is singular. So you see, this won't work, but this works. So the boys go and the boys goes. There are two different sentences. The boys goes, boys is plural subject, that's subject, while goes, a go is plural verb. So plural works with subject verb agreement. While the boys goes, plural singular doesn't work with this. So this is what? This So you see, whenever you are given topics or question in English language, you come to look at the subject and the verb agreement. So if they don't agree, please pick the right option. And that is for subject verb concord. Now, the next thing we are going to look at, we're going to look at the subject object concord. Now, in the subject object concord, what are the rules? We're going to look at the subject object concord. So in the subject object concord, what are the rules guiding a subject object concord? Now the rule is this: when subjects like everyone, everybody, etc. are used, the object will be either his or her and not there. Now, let me explain. Now, whenever we have subjects that has to do with everybody, everyone, then the object that should go with it is his or her, and not what? Yes. Now take note of that. It's very important. Subject object concord, we talk about the subject. Whenever the subject is everybody or everyone, then the object should be his or her and not there. Now, let's look at this sentence. The sentence says, everybody knows dash names. Everybody knows dash names. Now, if you look at that sentence very well, you come to see that the term everybody is used. So whenever everybody is used, this requires you picking his or what or hers. Now, everybody, this is an American English and not an acceptable, is not acceptable in JAMB form when we use what? Here. In American English, we can say there. Everybody knows their names. But in under JAMB, when you are sitting for JAMB, this is not acceptable. You either use he or what or her. And that is the correct term you use. So everybody knows his or everybody knows name. So under JAMB examination, that is exactly what we should use. Now, this is very important when you are dealing with what? With subject-object concord. So if you have any sentence that begins with everybody or everyone, make sure that the object that goes with it is his or her and not what? There. Now, that is that. Now, let's look at another type of concord. In that type of concord, we are going to look at what we call the mandative subjunction concord. Now, what do we mean by the mandative subjunction concord? So we talk about the mandative subjunction concord. Now, what does this concord mean? Whenever we have recommendation, we have resolution, or we have demand, wish, suggestion, be it singular or plural, in any sentence, if they are involved in any sentence, then the verb of that sentence or clause should be in plural, whether the subject is either singular or what, plural. Now I'm going to list those things out. Whenever you are dealing with any subject or any question, and you find out that that question has to do with recommendation, the question has to do with wish, the question has to do with resolution, it also has to do with suggestion, then, or even prayers. Let's add prayers. So if the sentence has to do with any of these, then the subject, the verb should always be what? Should be in plural, no matter what the subject is. Verb should always be in what? In plural, even if the subject is singular or what? Or plural. So wherever you see any sentence that has to do with recommendation, wish, resolution, suggestions, or prayers, the verb should be in what? Plural. The verb of that clause should be in plural, no matter what the subject is. If the subject is singular or plural, it doesn't matter. The verb must be in plural. Now, check out this sentence. We will have this sentence that it has been recommended that he dash away. It has been recommended that he dash away. Now, what do you fit in here? Should it be goes or go? So which of these two verbs will you want to fit into that sentence? Now, according to the rule of mandative and subjunction concord, it says whenever you have recommendation, wish, resolution, suggestion, or prayers, the verb should be what? Plural. So which of these is a plural verb? A plural verb does not have S. So the right option is go. It is not goes, because go is a plural verb. So even if the subject is singular or plural, the verb must be what? The verb must be plural. Now, when we look at that statement very well, you'll find out that the statement borders on recommendation. For analysis, now let us just consider the full version of that sentence. Now, if we consider the full version of that sentence, we'll have the sentence as it has been recommended that he should dash away. Now, when we look at that, it has been recommended that he should go away, then you'll find out that should has been removed in the initial sentence. And you can still remember that the rule says, in when we discuss modal auxiliary verbs, modal auxiliary verbs such as shall, should, may, might, can, and could. They are all used next to a verb, and the verb should be what? Plural. Now, whenever you see should, whenever you see could, whenever you see should, may, might, whenever you see all these modal auxiliary verbs, we have shall. Whenever you see shall, should, may, might, can, could, whenever you see all these auxiliary modal auxiliaries coming with before a verb, the verb must be what? Must be plural. The verb that precedes all these modal auxiliaries should be what? Should be plural. So without S, the correct option should be what? Should be O. So it has been recommended that he should what? Should go. Now remember, all this is very important that you bear those things in mind. So plural verb are verb that does not have to do with what? With S behind them, just as we discussed. Now let's look at some other questions, other examples that we can truly play with. One of those examples we can play with are examples like I pray that God dash in. I pray that God dash that God dash. Is it help, or what will you choose as your option? Let's put helps. So which of these two options will you choose? Now let's look at this other question. We resolve that the secretary dash. We resolved that the secretary dash. Is it resigns or resign? So which will you choose for that? Now let's look at this. See, the principal suggests Olu dash the school. So the option, is it leaves or leave? Which will you choose? Now let's analyze these questions very, very well. The first one goes with the mandative pray. And from here, we'll also see what? Resolve. And in all these places, we'll also see what? Suggest. So what will the verbs be? The verbs must definitely be what? Plural verbs. Remember the rule for mandative or subjunctive Concord. Whenever you have recommendations, suggestions, resolutions, we also have prayers. The verb that goes with them must be what? Plural verb. So which is the right option? So long as we have pray, the verb should be plural. And recall that plural verbs doesn't have what? Do not have S. It's only singular verbs that goes with what? S. So the right option here will be what? Help. The right option here will be what? resign. And the right option here will be what? Leave. So the principal suggests Olu leave the school. So that is very important. So when you know these rules and have them at your fingertips, you can be able to answer questions that are related to subject-verb agreement, subject-object agreement, and mandative or subjunction concord that has to do with what? Recommendations, resolutions, prayers, and suggestions. It is not only no, I want you to note this under this third concord, part of concord we've taken. It is not only when the words recommended, I wish, I pray, or I suggest, or we resolve appears that this rule will hold. It will hold even if there is no such words, but if the word used in the sentence suggests the meaning of any of these listed words. Now, somebody can say this in a statement, and I'll be wondering, can this really be mandative concord? Somebody can make this statement in a sentence. We insist, or it can be, we require, or it can truly be, we move in terms of motion, we move that he resigned. Now you see that statement, since it is resigned, it can't be S because the plural must be what? The verb must be what? Plural. This is the verb. So whenever you see any sentence that has insist, insist means recommendation. It can also stand for suggestion. We require, it can be a certain requirement or resolution. We move, it can be a resolution in terms of moving emotion that something happened. So whenever you see words like this in any sentence, you should know that these are what? Mandative concord. And as such, the verb must be what? Must be plural what? Plural verb. So I want you to take good note of that. This is so since all the verbs mean either resolution or what? Or demand that somebody does what? Resigns. So watch out for other words that can suggest or that can seem to mean any of these above mandative words that have been given to us. Remember the mandative words that can truly work out well. Then when you see such, you apply the rule. Now remember those words: recommendation, wish, pray, suggestion, and resolution. There are other ones that requires mandative, applying the rules that apply to mandative concord. So when you see such, apply such rules and make sure you get your answers. So watch out for those questions so that you can easily apply the rule. Now, I want you to have these questions. These questions are JAMB UTME questions, and I want you to look at them thoroughly and see if these rules apply to these questions. These are the questions I want you to go through. The first question is, a tale of two cities a tale of two cities dash the dash we are studying. Now, the first option, option A, is it a slash novels? Option B, Is it was slash novel? Option C, is it were slash novels? And option D, is it is or novel? Now, I want you to look at this question and look at these options and then see the options that fit in at this. I want to see your comment on that. Now, the question B says a wide range, of options dash a wide range of options dash made available to the political parties during the what? During the concluded election. So you're asked to fill in the gap. So the options is A, is it is? B, is it was? C, is it where? And D, the final option, is it are? Is it are? So I want you to look at these questions. Look at these questions thoroughly. Check the options that best suits these questions. And don't forget to drop your answer. I'll be so glad to engage with you. Now look at those questions, get an answer to them, and then we'll discuss further. In our next topic, we are going to look at another 3 rules of Concord. Today we have considered 3 rules of Concord, which has to do with the subject-verb agreement, subject-object agreement, and the mandative subjunction Concord, which has to do with statements or words like verbs like recommendation, wish, pray, suggest, and resolution. Whenever they appear or whenever any word suggests that that is what they are, we use plural words, plural verb. So take note of that and don't forget to join us in our next class. I'm going to edit this video because of the various pages we have in the course of this live stream, and then I'll give you the full version of the video on these 3 first rules of Concord. In our next class, we are going to discuss other 3 or 4 rules of Concord. Thanks so much for coming online, and I do appreciate you. And I want to apologize for those hitches we had in the course of this live stream. I look forward to seeing you watch our subsequent live streams. Thanks so much for watching, and bye-bye for now.